WCLN 1170 Radio and Star Vision Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by J.W. Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The name of the show is We Should Know. We're coming to you from WCLN Radio, Star Vision TV, and Star TV, Channel 16. The show airs 2:30 to 3:30 on Tuesday, each and every Tuesday. There's a replay at 7 p.m. on Star Vision, Channel 16, and Star Vision TV. You can pick us up there if you happen to miss this show. Also, we're now uploading the shows to YouTube, so wherever you're at, if you happen to want to type in We Should Know EDU at YouTube, it'll bring up a number of the shows. Normally these shows are uploaded after Tuesday on Wednesday or Thursday of the week, so you'll be able to see them there as well. There's also a summation. It's not the word-for-word replay, but it's a summation in the Sampson Weekly newspaper, and we encourage you, if you missed, you can pick that up, take a read of what's going on. I want to thank everybody for your comments from the last week's show, chiropractic care here in the county. Dr. Mary Ann Luxter came and did a great job, talked about what chiropractic care was, how it may benefit you, and why you might be interested in that, and I appreciate your comments on that. Today's show is something that I'd really looked at doing probably, believe it or not, almost a year ago. The way things worked, it didn't work out for us, but we're fortunate to have with us today the fire chief, the city of Clinton, Adon Snyder. Thank you for being here, Chief. I appreciate you taking your time. It's a busy time for fire service. Before we get into a lot of that, I want to just kind of give you a few moments to talk about you, how you ended up in Clinton. You've got an unbelievable career record of some of the things I want to talk about up in Prince George's County, but talk to us about who you are and how you ended up here in the eastern part of North Carolina from a population up there of about 900,000 people.
Well, first I'd like to say thank you for inviting me. I was born and raised in a small town, very much the size of Clinton, North Carolina. It was in Pennsylvania where I was born and raised. There everyone knew everyone, and it was pretty much the way it is here in Clinton. When I got a little bit older, I enlisted in the United States Air Force, and I enlisted as a firefighter. So I did aircraft crash rescue in the Air Force and did that for 4 years. And I was assigned primarily to Andrews Air Force Base. When I discharged from the Air Force, I got hired by Prince George's County, Maryland, which is the county that surrounds Andrews Air Force Base as a firefighter. And that's how I got started in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Prior to that, though, you know, in my small town, I was a volunteer firefighter. I started in 1972. And for those that can remember, back in that time, there was a hurricane, a tropical storm that came up the East Coast called Agnes. And it pretty much ravaged the eastern seaboard. And my hometown was pretty much 2/3 underwater at the time. And it was very much like the New Orleans scenario on a smaller scale, in the sense that the flash flooding had occurred so quickly. There was literally people on the rooftops. And the local fire companies had boats, but they didn't have enough people to put in the boats to go out and help people off the rooftops, so they were asking for help. And that's how I got started in the fire service. And I continued, joined as a volunteer, and stayed at that volunteer company until 1986 when I went in the Air Force. Or I'm sorry, 82, and then 86 I got out of the Air Force and started in Prince George's County, Maryland, and did a 26-year career there, retiring as an assistant fire chief with Prince George's County. And I retired for 3 days. I retired on September 1st of 2012 and started as the fire chief in Clinton September 4th of 2012. So
huge, large vacation.
Yeah, I had a 3-day vacation there. So probably in the mid-'80s, I had purchased property in Brunswick County, North Carolina, and I knew that when I wanted to retire in this part of North Carolina. I just kind of view my stop here. I'm very excited for the opportunity that the city of Clinton has, you know, entrusted in me, and my stop here is kind of completing my retirement plans in many ways. You know, at some point, I hope to finally give up the fire service and remain in this area. So I'm excited to be here and very excited for the opportunity that I have here in Clinton.
Just kind of give us I guess a barometer kind of on where you came from. Prince George's County, we're looking at a large, when I say large, a very large fire department compared to the kinds of things that you see locally here. And of course, you've had some experience with smaller volunteer fire departments. But we're looking at what, 7 battalions up there, folks. And tell us about that and that experience a little bit, because you had an interesting, several interesting things occur there. And I know some of these things you probably don't want to talk about, but you got some recognitions for doing some pretty heroic things in that area. And I want to kind of touch on those. But tell us about the department there, and how does it feel being from such a large department? Now you come to a smaller, more rural area. I'm sure there's a lot of comparable things that you've thought about as you transition with that.
I mean, for those that don't know, Prince George's County is a southeastern suburb of Washington, D.C., so it's in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. The department there was a combination department. When I left there, we had 850 career firefighters and about 1,100 volunteers. The department had 46 stations, 7 battalions, and 2 divisions. It ran about 130, 140,000 calls a year, and it averaged between 400 to 600 calls a day, between the 46 stations. So I did 26 years there. You got probably 10 years of experience in about 2 years there because of the call volume, and had the opportunity to experience a lot of different things that firefighters in smaller communities don't necessarily get the opportunity to, but have the potential to. So whether you're in a large department that's very busy or a smaller department that's a little bit slower, the experiences and the situations are the same. It's just the frequency of the occurrence. So whenever I transitioned here in Clinton, it's pretty much the same job, the same potential for emergencies and stuff. It's just on a slower, smaller scale. But how everything's handled and the types of emergencies are all pretty much the same.
One of the things resonated with me as I was kind of doing a little background on you, as looking at it, there was a situation I know you got involved in, and you and an associate of yours was actually credited with saving this lady's life. And as the information was revealed to me, you were like going around the back of a house. It was a 1.5-story house, and you heard somebody literally screaming for their life. And apparently, as you looked up, you could see somebody in the window. And that's a perfect example, I think, of a firefighter and what they do. As you ascended a ladder to actually retrieve this person from a window, kind of give us a feel for what goes through somebody's mind when you have to face that kind of thing.
I think it's difficult to compare, what goes through your mind with a trained professional versus an average civilian. I mean, what goes through our mind is what we train for.
Protocols.
Pretty much what we try and follow the procedures, follow our training, and make sure everything we do is safe. With the the resident in mind. So, I mean, obviously, what mainly was going through my mind is I knew she was in danger, and we needed to get her to a safe environment. So, I was fortunately able to be at the right place at the right time, and in that particular case, something positive came out of it because she survived.
Absolutely.
There are times where, despite our best efforts, we can't always achieve a positive outcome. So, and that's something we have to deal with too.
I find that folks like yourself and others that go through these things, and they, it's obvious and readily clear that, for an average person out here, we look at it and go that, this guy's a hero, he's done A, B, and C, and D, and you try to talk to them about it, and they always second drawer it. They push us aside. I've not been able to yet get anybody to just say, look, man, you've really stepped up to the plate and done something good. But as I look at that and I read about that situation, it was clear and apparent that the failure to act at that moment, I mean, even the slightest hesitation, because according to one of your supervisors at that time, I think he said in a matter of 35 to 40 seconds, if something hadn't occurred, that lady would have been dead.
Yeah, the potential was there. I mean, certainly the conditions had deteriorated to a life-threatening situation. It actually turned out that she was wheelchair bound, so she physically could not get out on her own. And it wasn't just an individual act there was numerous people, numerous firefighters on the scene. Had they not done their jobs and done what they were supposed to do, it would have affected, how successful we would have been at the back of the house. So it was a team effort, and it always is in most cases. So.
An important question as we kind of transcend to another thought here, as you look at that and the volume of people you had working with you in those kinds of situations, and then you reflect now to where you are now and you look at volunteer fire departments and areas, you've got, as you said a while ago, the same energy, same commitment, the same drive. Are there differences in the amount of equipment, the volume of people? How significant is that for you when you look at where you are now versus being in Prince George's County?
Well, I mean, certainly in comparison to the resources we have immediately at our fingertips as a call's dispatched here in Clinton and Sampson County, our resources are much less than what we had up in Prince George's County. I really didn't realize how fortunate we were until I didn't have those resources available to me. But I can tell you, both the career firefighters in the city of Clinton and the volunteers out in Sampson County do an amazing job with what they have to work with, and a lot of times it's doing an incredible job with a limited amount of resources. And I have a great deal of respect for everybody here in Sampson County, and the citizens of the community should know that they're doing a great job. So,
when you transitioned and you looked at coming here, was there one particular thing that interested you in this area that caught your eye? Did it remind you of something in your past or something of that nature?
Well, I mean, I had been a volunteer for 14 years, and I did 26 years, in the career service. And I had to make a decision on whether I wanted to retire and walk away from the fire service or stick around a little bit longer, if you will, and give back to a profession that has been very good to me. And I chose to stay in the fire service and give back. And, what interested me in Clinton at the time was, the city manager, John Connett, had a vision for the city, and he entrusted. We're
gonna take a break. Hold that thought.
Hello, everyone. This is Jim Darden. After 25 years of teaching horticulture at Sampson Community College, I've retired to devote my full attention to Darden's Nursery and Landscaping, where we have grown local azaleas, trees, and other landscape plants for over 30 years. And our landscaping division has designed and installed hundreds of residential and commercial landscapes, irrigation, sodding, and night light systems as well. Please give me a call at 590-9689 or at home at 592-1424, and let's get started on your landscape. Our initial consultation is free. Congratulations to J.W. Simmons on an outstanding program, We Should Know.
Hi, I'm Cliff Ireland with the Small Business Center at Sampson Community College. We offer things like one-on-one individual confidential counseling sessions. We offer assistance to both startup businesses and existing businesses. We have a network of referrals both here in the county and outside the county. And in addition, we offer year-round seminars and workshops in professional development. One of the neat things about the Small Business Center is that for the majority of the programs, it is at little or no cost to Small Business Center clients or seminar participants. Now, if you want to know how we can help you or help your business, please call 592-7176 at Sampson Community College.
You really thought about what you have to lose if you drink and drive?
This is your district attorney, Ernie Lee. You could lose your privilege to drive and spend serious jail time.
Hello, I'm Cindy Joyner. Driving impaired can make your insurance increase significantly and could create problems in finding a quality insurance plan.
This is Sherry Matthews with the Sampson Independent. Your name could appear in the local media, causing embarrassment to your family, friends, and coworkers.
Hi, this is Luis Torres from Murphy Brown LLC. You know, you could even lose your job, resulting in severe hardship for you and your family.
Hi, this is Dr. Tommy Newton, and personal injuries to yourself and others may often be severe and permanently disabling.
I'm Laura Bradshaw, a member of SAD. The most important loss may be your life or the life of someone else.
This is Cindy Joyner with Lockamy Tech Insurance. We are pleased to sponsor this message. Join us as we promote safer communities and help prevent needless tragedies.
Remember, don't lose your privilege to drive. This is First Sergeant Ricky Hooks with the North Carolina State Highway Patrol. For additional information, call 910-592-3141.
Health Mart Pharmacy.
A real-life person. It's just like Jenny told me.
Another friend of Jenny's. Great. I've met about 3 of Jenny's friends just this week.
You'll meet more of us. Jenny was telling all of us last week how great Health Mart is.
At Health Mart, all of our pharmacists take the time to get to know our patients, explain their medications, and answer any questions they may have. We really believe in better care and better service.
Can I stop in after work?
Absolutely.
Health Mart, caring for you and about you.
For all of your prescription and health care needs, shop Matthews Health Mart in the Jordan Shopping Plaza or call 592-3121.
I'm Gary Hall, manager of Sessoms Jewelry. We are proud to be sponsors of JW's We Should Know. At Sessoms Jewelry, we've always strived to give you the latest in technical advice and knowledge on our merchandise. Remember, we should know at Sessoms Jewelry, downtown Clinton.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You're watching or listening to We Should Know. We're coming to you on WCLN 1170 AM radio. We're coming to you on Star Vision TV, also Star TV, channel 16. If you're looking at us, you can see a replay at 7 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We do thank you for tuning in. Talking about a very interesting subject today. We're talking with somebody that knows a lot about something that affects everybody's life, and that's fire service, firefighting. Just this past few days, actually, we've seen some horrific events coming from the Midwest, and some folks has happened to be victims of that. I'm sure you've seen that on TV. We're talking with the chief, the fire chief, City of Clinton, Chief Snyder. Again, thank you for being with us. As we went off the air, I kind of gave you a rather long question, and kind of follow up on that in your transition to the City of Clinton, as you were discussing the things that kind of caught your eye as you retired from Prince George's County and looked down in southeastern North Carolina, a small town called Clinton, or Clinton, depending on, I guess, if you're from here or you're not from here. I'm sure you've already had that drill.
I've had that discussion.
You've had that discussion. So as you look at that, you were talking about some things that caught your eye. So I'm going to let you kind of continue that thought.
Well, just to expand on when I had started, I decided to continue to stay in the fire service and contribute back to a profession that's been very good to me. At the time, the city manager was John Conant, who I knew for a very brief time, but gained a great deal of respect for him in a short period of time. And he had a very clear vision on where he wanted the City of Clinton Fire Department to go. And he, offered the opportunity to me. So I had made several trips down here and had the opportunity to walk through the city and stuff. And it was clear to me that the city was on the move. They had done some revitalization downtown that was very noticeable. And I didn't know much about what energy had gone into that, but I noticed it. And then it was obvious to me, that the mayor and the city council and all the leadership of the community was committed to the city and committed to, their citizens. So the decision to come here was very easy for me, and I wanted to be part of a team that was giving back to a community. After all, when you're in public service, that's what it is giving back to a community, whether it's here in Clinton, North Carolina, or Anchorage, Alaska. It's all the same. It's a personal commitment, and I wanted to be part of that, so it was an easy decision.
Did looking at the geographic area, and I know you mentioned Andrews Air Force Base a while ago, and I thought about it as I was looking at some of the things you had done and where you've been. Did any of the location here interest you as it relates to, for example, Seymour Johnson at Goldsboro, the military bases that we often see folks transitioning from one to the other through the county? Did that make you feel a little bit like, well, maybe I know a little bit about some of those things that goes on there? Was there any relationship there for you at all?
Well, I wasn't sure what the connection that the city had to the military bases in the area, and I think there's a total of 3, maybe Fort Bragg and the 2 Air Force bases and stuff. But I knew that a lot of times those military installations, provide a very vibrant, stimulus or whatever to the community, contribution, if you will. And I knew that, I felt at the time that certainly, if it hadn't already, that the city of Clinton would be benefiting by it. So it would, help sustain the community and keep it, worthwhile.
In your service with Prince George's County, and I want to kind of, again, step back into that world a bit, I know that there was some times there you had one situation in which there were some critical injuries that occurred, and you actually worked with creating a simulator there, kind of a Mayday kind of simulator that to help after that event, to help firefighters, to kind of explain what that was and how that worked with training, because these are kinds of things here that I've often been just literally amazed at how much time folks put in with training with the fire service and how much effort they put in. That one house fire, that one structure fire, there's hundreds of hours of training. So what gave you the idea about, and explain what this simulator is that you actually put together to make work?
Right. Unfortunately for a firefighter, when something goes wrong, it comes without warning, and there's very little time to react, and you have to really, they talk about relying on their training, but really what occurs is a thing we like to talk about called situational awareness. And part of that is our brains are very powerful computers, and everything we experience, say, talk, hear, see, is stored in our minds for the rest of our lives. And one of the trick is to have the ability to recall that. And oftentimes in stressful situation, research has shown that our mind will try and get us out of that situation. And what they'll do is recall everything in your memory and to find something similar to have you do to get you out of that situation. So it's very much like putting slides in the old slide carousel, for those that would be familiar with that. So fire department training is all about putting those slides in your carousel. So when you're working in a high stress environment, fast moving, and you get in situations without warning, you'll have something to fall back on, whether you're consciously or subconsciously. And oftentimes that's referred to as reverting back to our training. Firefighters are always at risk of falling through floors or having buildings falling on them. And all our training is usually done in groups of 2 or in teams. But when something tragic happens unexpectedly, oftentimes we find ourselves by ourselves. And we don't have someone to rely on, and we don't have, a team to help us. It's just us. And rarely do we train for just us. We always expect someone else to be there. So firefighter survival and firefighter safety, as with most fire chiefs and firefighters, becomes a real passion of ours, because we want to make sure that after every call, everyone goes home. I did not invent the training. I mean, it had been training that was given across the nation for many years.
I think it was labeled as the Mayday Simulator.
Mayday Simulator. What I had done was actually build a prop that simulated a floor collapse. And we actually had, you would crawl out onto the prop and we'd pull the floor out from under you, and you'd actually fall about 4 foot down. Even though you were expecting it, you weren't prepared for it, and it disoriented you.
And you're full gear with self-contained breathing apparatus and the whole thing.
Breathing air, yeah. And then we had given some classroom prior to that, so to give you procedures on the follow to make sure that you were okay, and then radio help. So the whole training was centered around the floor collapse and doing a self checklist, and then radioing for help. So
now this was done as a result of an occurrence of a situation in which there was some critical injuries. Is that correct? I mean, there was actually something that stimulated that this needed to be done, and folks needed to be better trained in that area.
Well, we because of our call volume, we have what our profession calls near misses. Unfortunately, on a regular basis, we had one particular instance on a wind-driven fire where we burnt 7 firefighters. The conditions changed unexpectedly, and they were in a bad situation and got caught. So it was on the tails of that. We were able to train almost 2,000 firefighters through the simulator, which hopefully would have some type of impact, in the future should one of those folks get in trouble. So.
And you mentioned a wind-driven fire. What goes through your mind when you see the media coverage that we just recently went through and looked at the number of young men that lost their lives in a very tragic situation? And it was, I guess, a wind-driven situation, something that was totally, although maybe had been expected and trained for, obviously some of the things that they used either didn't work as much as they were hoping it had, but apparently something went completely sideways there. What goes through your mind as a fire chief, as a firefighter? Kind of two different questions there. One as an administrator and one as one of the people that could, in your career could have easily been there. I think when you look at it, these folks volunteer to do that kind of work.
I think as a fire chief, you can't put it into words. A loss of one firefighter, let alone 19. And I think what most people don't realize is the impact it has on the entire community. It's devastating, and oftentimes you never recover from it. I think a good example of it was the 9 firefighters we lost in Charleston, South Carolina, several years ago at the Sofa Superstore fire, and that community's still trying to recover from that.
That was horrible.
And that was many years ago, and I can't imagine, losing 19. And of course, New York City, the tragic events of September 11th, and they lost 343. That's I couldn't even imagine that. So as a leader, you can't even put it into words, because you have to look your workforce in the face, because they're all looking for answers, and there are no answers. Sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, despite our best efforts, things just go tragically wrong. And I don't know the facts, on everything that occurred in Arizona, but I'm sure that they were conditions that were unexpected. So.
And sometimes the nature of the job is just the result of things happening in a tragic situation.
That's usually the case. You
can't fix everything, and you can't prescribe everything.
We try. We try our very best. We train with safety procedures and try to have an understanding of the forces that we're dealing with. But the fact is, there are just conditions we can't control, and things happen unexpectedly. I think we try very hard, that's all.
Well, and I think one of the things, too, when we look at that, we all have to recognize, as you just said, when it comes to Mother Nature and what happens or does not happen, it's completely out of our control. We're going to take another break, and we're going to come back and talk about some additional things and experiences you have had. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching We Should Know. We're looking at doing some additional things on related subjects with emergency responders, so please keep in touch, and we'll be back in a moment.
Sampson County's free community newspaper is on the stands. Read all about our community news, sports, lifestyles, weddings, education, obituaries, classifieds, and much more community information. Know what's going on in your community. Read the Sampson Weekly. Submit your ideas to the Sampson Weekly at thesampsonweekly.com. Read the entire newspaper online at thesampsonweekly.com. The Sampson Weekly wants to celebrate with the residents of Sampson County. Send all your news and announcements, events, and achievements to information at thesampsonweekly.com. See the Sampson Weekly for details. Help the Sampson Weekly create a buzz. Tell your friends and family. There's a new weekly newspaper in Sampson County. The Sampson Weekly. Local sports, local news, obituaries, wedding announcements, current events, and much, much more. Look for it every Wednesday. For a limited time, free yard sale listings will be in our classified section. Go to our website, click on the classified section, and fill out the form. As long as space is available, we will publish your yard sales information. Sampson County's free community newspaper. Get your copy.
I'm Gary Hall, manager of Sessoms Jewelry. We are proud to be sponsors of JW's We Should Know. At Sessoms Jewelry, we've always strived to give you the latest in technical advice and knowledge on our merchandise. Remember, we should know at Sessoms Jewelry, downtown Clinton.
Huff Orthopedics and Sports Medicine is pleased to be a part of the community. Each and every patient we have served over the past 13 years has been given the most current and professional care available anywhere. As a board-certified orthopedic surgeon and certified sports medicine surgeon, I am committed to improving the quality of life through the latest in medical science and surgical procedures when needed. Huff Orthopedics and Sports Medicine is located at 520 Beeman Street, directly across from Sampson Regional Medical Center in Clinton. We look forward to serving you. Call us today at 910-596-5633 for an appointment. I am Dr. Alex Huff, and we are pleased to sponsor We Should Know with J.W. Simmons.
What does wine, great food, and grapes have in common? Duplin Winery. Hello, I'm Jonathan Fussell, and I'd like to invite you to come experience true Southern hospitality. Duplin Winery offers free tours and free wine tastings Monday through Saturday, and top off your day with an amazing lunch in our bistro restaurant. Be prepared for an experience of a lifetime. Please call us at 800-774-9634. That number again is 800-774-9634.
Health Mart Pharmacy.
A real live person. It's just like Jenny told me.
Another friend of Jenny's. Great. I've met about 3 of Jenny's friends just this week.
You'll meet more of us. Jenny was telling all of us last week how great Health Mart is.
At Health Mart, all of our pharmacists take the time to get to know our patients, explain their medications, and answer any questions they may have. We really believe in better care and better service.
Can I stop in after work?
Absolutely.
Health Mart, caring for you and about you.
For all of your prescription and healthcare needs, shop Matthews Health Mart in the Jordan Shopping Plaza or call 592-3121.
I'm Gary Hall, manager of Sessoms Jewelry. We are proud to be sponsors of JW's We Should Know. At Sessoms Jewelry, we've always strived to give you the latest in technical advice and knowledge on our merchandise. Remember, we should know at Sessoms Jewelry, downtown Clinton.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I want to thank you for looking at the show. We want to give a shout out to a lot of those folks that talk about our show each and every week. Boogie Shoes Radio Network with Robert Stroud. Of course, Don Smith has a country store on the radio. Listen to him. We follow him on Tuesdays. Also, Wayne Weeks with the Southern Gospel Hour, and Wayne does a great job and also is mentioning us constantly. And those folks down in the early morning hours there with Grandpa and the L-Man and Nolan Z. Also, a shout out to Nicole. We've already, I think I mentioned Nicole a while ago. She introduces our show each and every week. We appreciate that, Nicole. And Tommy, of course, the Fly, playing music for you every day on the radio station. And all those other folks out there that either see me or send us emails or make contact with us, we appreciate that. We're talking with the Fire Chief, City of Clinton, Chief Snyder, Bachelor of Science degree, Fire Service Administration from Waldorf College in Forest City. You're a Certified Fire Officer 4 and Instructor 3 in Hazardous Materials. And you've also completed coursework at the National Fire Academy and Emergency Management Institute. Background, experience, academic credentials, all of those things that you need. And as we went off a while ago to break, we were talking about those tragedies sometimes that occurs, and we just can't seem to get a handle on it. I mean, we can fix protocols, we can come with new training procedures, but there's always going to be those things that kind of hit us sideways. With that in mind, and as you look at your new position, relatively new, actually it's getting old now because you've been here a year, so you can say you're a seasoned fire chief in the city of Clinton, but when you look at that, what do you see as some of the key issues as we move forward and as you look forward for the fire service folks, not only in the state, but particularly here in this area, and as you look at this county, because we're looking at a county that's huge in distance and space here, and we've got a large number of volunteer firefighters that we like to give shout-outs here quite often, and Keith Powell is one of our regular visitors on the show, and Chief Keith Powell also helps us stay alert. But what do you see, coming from where you are and where you are now, from where you were and where you are now, what do you see in the future and what some of those challenges?
Well, I think whether you're career, whether you volunteer, the fire service in general, and I'll talk about the fire service family, I mean, the challenges are the same. And as our economy changed a few years ago, so has the way we do business, because so much of what we do, whether you're career or volunteer, is money driven. And we were relying heavily on federal grants and stuff to buy a lot of the equipment and provide a lot of the training that we use. And as those things begin to dry up and are going to continue to dry up in the next several years, it's going to be a real challenge for the fire service to maintain the equipment to provide the high level of service that the communities, the citizens expect and deserve. So much of what we use is very expensive. You know, for example, just a pumper fire truck can run between $300,000 and $500,000, depending on the accessories you put on there. Ladder trucks can run between $600,000 to $1 million. And as they, improve the vehicles with improved technologies and safety equipment and stuff on it drives the prices up. So it's going to be a real challenge and a real balancing act to be able to, purchase and maintain that equipment and still be able to provide a high level of service. So, and the other issue I think facing the fire service, whether you're a career volunteer, is going to be staffing. Mm-hmm. If you're a volunteer organization, many families now are working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet, so they just don't have the free time that they once had to volunteer their time and contribute or give back to their communities. And that's why I have such the highest respect for those that are volunteering now, because I know the demand of the training and the time commitment. And on the career side, the same thing, staffing levels. I mean, because it's all associated with tax dollars. When you're a city service or a county service, it's all funding comes from tax revenue. So it is a real balancing act for a municipality to maintain a high level of service, provide the staffing, provide the equipment and stuff without help through federal grants and stuff like that. So those are probably the most immediate challenges.
Chief, when you think about that, and you mentioned staffing, I think it's very important. Do you think we give the public, our listeners and the general public, enough information that their expectation is where it needs to be? Sometimes maybe folks expect more than what we're able to deliver. What kind of sense do you have for that? I think it's important sometimes for us to look, especially at emergency response, mm-hmm. and let folks know here's what you can expect. Now, if we go beyond that, that's great, but oftentimes the effect and the expectation is two different things.
I think a lot of research has been done within the last 3 years on the effects that a residential fire has on a firefighter, mm-hmm. and what staffing levels should be. Mm-hmm. For the most part, for a single-family dwelling, it's suggested that staffing levels should be somewhere between 14 and 16 firefighters on the scene within the first 10 minutes. Typically, in the person's physical conditioning, the environment, the heat and humidity, mm-hmm. and how intense the fire is impacts it. But typically, on average, a firefighter is effective for about 20 minutes. And that's because of the gear he's wearing. His adrenaline will fatigue him a lot sooner than what normally would occur if you didn't have working on adrenaline, and then you have the heat and humidity and everything else. So after that 20-minute time frame, his effectiveness diminishes greatly, and also safety factors he's at high risk for injury or other type of tragic thing because he's pushing himself beyond his limits. So staffing levels is real important to be able to rotate that person out and put a fresh person in there. And I think the public in general doesn't have a good recognition of the amount of energy it takes to work and operate at a fire. They just think a firefighter shows up and he just works and works and works until the fire goes out. And oftentimes it takes a lot longer to put a fire out because of those very elements that I just described. So I think, and there's not many high rises around here, but they've done studies, and you need like 20 to 30 within the first 10 minutes. So staffing is a very important issue. Excuse me, when it comes to firefighting and stuff. So
I want to kind of talk about the differentiation a little bit. We've looked at here, especially in our area. We've got emergency medical response, we've got law enforcement, public safety response in that area, and we've got fire response. And fire has kind of taken on, over the few years that I've had some involvement with that area, has taken on the responsibility of the word rescue as well. Historically, back during the day, as a lot of us old guys like me would say, I recall when emergency medical folks would deal with the rescue. In fact, those two words were synonymous and interchangeable. Now that's been leveraged primarily to the fire departments, the rescue portion of that, as well as you guys are trained medically as well as far as emergency medical practices, but the rescue part with traffic accidents and farm rescue and those kinds of things. What do you see happening there as it relates to equipment and the future as we look at that? Because it's becoming very, I guess, elaborate at some of the areas that folks can find themselves in and need that word rescue, and a fire truck rolls up.
Yeah, I think, and I say this lightheartedly, I think as the community's needs have grown over the last 10 to 20 years, the response to meet those needs often came in question, like, how are we going to do that? Yeah. And oftentimes it's ended up in the fire department's lap. And over the last 10 or 15 years, we have become an all hazards service. When no one else knows who to call, they end up calling the fire department. Absolutely. And a lot of fire departments across the country and here in North Carolina are EMS-based fire departments, so they're not separate. They run they provide the EMS service also. Here in Sampson County, we have they have the fire, they have the rescue, and they have the EMS. EMS and fire are still separate. And the Clinton Fire Department took on the rescue thing a few years ago. I think probably as the years continue to evolve and the training standards become more demanding and the price of equipment becomes more demanding, I think that's what has kind of pushed EMS forward and forcing them to focus more on the EMS side, especially the paramedic side of stuff. The demands for the training and recertifications are really high. So
I want to spend some time talking about training, though, in just a few minutes. But one of the things that occurs, and when people think about training, your philosophy on training, is that kind of a multi-person kind of thing where different people have specialties, or do you like to see your folks trained in all levels of functionality, from rescue to dealing with a fire hydrant to handling a pump? Do you see it as a specialty thing, or do you see unilateral training across the board where they're cross-trained in different areas?
Well, I think, as I talked earlier about fire service becoming all hazards, I think has kind of forced us to become a jack of all trades, if you will, and multitask, to be multi-trained in a variety of things. There's still a debate within our profession whether the quality of service that you get, what's that limit? When do you say we've reached our threshold and push a service off to another agency or something? The fire service, I think, historically has always done and go out of our way to continue to give. So I personally support training in all areas that we have a charge to respond to. Excuse me. So,
as a hazardous material instructor, that would also mean that, given whatever the hazard may be, and there, of course, there's been situations in our area, and I want to kind of leave this as a question for us when we come back from break, but there's been situations there that hazardous materials are critically important, and there's certain people that are just not capable of dealing with some of the hazardous materials things. So be thinking about that, and we're going to come back in a moment and talk about hazardous materials. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to WCLN Radio, Star Vision TV. We're talking with the Fire Chief, City of Clinton. Be back in a moment.
Health Mart Pharmacy.
A real life person. It's just like Jenny told me.
Another friend of Jenny's. Great. I've met about 3 of Jenny's friends just this week.
You'll meet more of us. Jenny was telling all of us last week how great Health Mart is.
At Health Mart, all of our pharmacists take the time to get to know our patients, explain their medications, and answer any questions they may have. We really believe in better care and better service.
Can I stop in after work?
Absolutely.
Health Mart, caring for you and about you.
For all of your prescription and healthcare needs, shop Matthews Health Mart in the Jordan Shopping Plaza or call 592-3121.
Hello, everyone. This is Jim Darden. After 25 years of teaching horticulture at Sampson Community College, I've retired to devote my full attention to Darden's Nursery and Landscaping, where we have grown local azaleas, trees, and other landscape plants for over 30 years. And our landscaping division has designed and installed hundreds of residential and commercial landscapes, irrigation, sodding, and night light systems as well. Please give me a call at 590-9689 or at home at 592-1424, and let's get started on your landscape. Our initial consultation is free. Congratulations to J.W. Simmons on an outstanding program, We Should Know.
I'm Gary Hall, manager of Sessoms Jewelry. We are proud to be sponsors of J.W.'s We Should Know. At Sessoms Jewelry, we've always strived to give you the latest in technical advice and knowledge on our merchandise. Remember, we should know at Sessoms Jewelry, downtown Clinton.
Interstar Communications, our local area internet provider, invites you to discover the wonders of the web with their unlimited internet services for only $19.95 a month. That's right, for only $19.95 a month, you'll have the whole world at your fingertips anytime or all the time with Interstar Communications. Plus, with Interstar's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week technical support at no extra charge, you'll have more than the local internet provider on your side. You'll have the whole internet team. So stop by today and see the friendly folks at Interstar Communications, 102 Sampson Street here in Clinton, or you can call them at 564-4638 and get started today on your adventure in the World Wide Web.
Huff Orthopedics and Sports Medicine is pleased to be a part of the community. Each and every patient we have served over the past 13 years has been given the most current and professional care available anywhere. As a board-certified orthopedic surgeon and certified sports medicine surgeon, I am committed to improving the quality of life through the latest in medical science and surgical procedures when needed. Huff Orthopedics and Sports Medicine is located at 520 Beeman Street, directly across from Sampson Regional Medical Center in Clinton. We look forward to serving you. Call us today at 910-596-5633 for an appointment. I am Dr. Alex Huff, and we are pleased to sponsor We Should Know with J.W. Simmons.
What does wine, great food, and grapes have in common? Duplin Winery. Hello, I'm Jonathan Fussell, and I'd like to invite you to come experience true Southern hospitality. Duplin Winery offers free tours and free wine tastings Monday through Saturday, and top off your day with an amazing lunch in our bistro restaurant. Be prepared for an experience of a lifetime. Please call us at 800-774-9634. That number again is 800-774-9634.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know is on the air. We're coming to you on WCLN Radio, Star Vision TV. We're talking fire service, firefighting today with a man that has come to Clinton, North Carolina, been here almost a year now. If you have not met him yet, Chief Snyder with the Clinton Fire Department is here. September, a year. And it's amazing, as we talked earlier, how fast the time has gone by, Chief, and it almost just seems 2 or 3 months ago. And I guess I say that so much, folks look at me and say, well, all old folks say that. Well, I don't really consider myself an old person yet, but it does go by fast. You've learned a lot and talked to a lot of folks in this area. When we look at the dynamic of what's going on, and of course you know a lot of our volunteers here, very dedicated people, amazing how much we've talked about training, how much training time they put in. And one of the things that you know, and you've discovered already, with a volunteer service, these guys are doing that, and they're not required by any state statute to do it, but they want to make sure their training is on par with anybody else, whether they're paid or not. And so these volunteers go out and they train. And you mentioned a while ago the issue as it relates to volunteers and how long is it going to be before we look and folks say, I just can't keep doing this, working full-time, volunteering full-time. Is there a day coming? I know we've seen it in this county and in surrounding counties with emergency medical folks. Do you get a sense that may happen with fire service?
You know, that's really hard to tell, but I can tell you the demands are very high. And I know that the training standards and requirements that we have usually evolve around something tragic happening, and usually around line of duty deaths or some other type of injury, and the training is to prevent that. Training for the fire service is the very core of what we do. We never know what we're going to be called or have to deal with, so we have to train for everything, and we train and prepare for stuff that we hope never happens. So that's kind of what we do, and as the state requirements and the national requirements continue to increase, it puts a very large demand for time. And it's very difficult, especially those that are volunteering their time, to meet those requirements. So someday I hope it never comes, because the fact is many communities across America rely on their volunteer organizations to get the services that they probably just couldn't afford to pay for. So
I think a lot of us have seen, and for folks that are listening, and we have a lot of emergency responders listening to this show, and I want to say to them that we and others, and they recognize this. I've had conversations with many of them about that and how much time they put in. One of those areas that we alluded to as we went off, and I said we would touch on that coming back, is the whole issue of hazardous materials. That's a whole nother area of specialty training that although you would like to have everybody cross-trained, in some of these hazardous material areas of which you have certification in, it's almost impossible, because everybody just can't go through some of the things. The hazmat folks have the time, the dedication, and I guess the key word there, time, to do all of it. So how do you adjust for that? Are we still looking at regional response?
I believe in this area we are looking at regional response. The best we can do for our first responders in this area is make sure that they have the training to be able to identify when a hazardous material is involved, and be able to call for that regional response whenever it's indicated. So the best thing we can do to provide and make sure they're safe and the community safe is make sure that they can identify that there is a hazardous materials involved. So.
And one of the things I think we've done that with the emergency management folks have looked at the county and have identified certain areas in which there are hazardous materials there, and with the local emergency planning committee and others that looks at that to identify it. And of course a lot of that is as a result of Bhopal, India some years ago when we had that huge situation there, and which internationally created an issue. One of the things I want to touch on now is that there's something called 16 life safety initiatives. You're familiar with these, and it's the idea behind it is everybody goes home, and when you're in battle. And one of those 16 that I wanted to just toss out and let you talk about a bit, and each one of these initiatives is critically important. We could spend 2 or 3 hours just talking about the 16 initiatives, but one of them simply says develop and implement national medical and physical fitness standards that are equally applicable to all firefighters based on the duties they are expected to perform. Talk to us about what that says to you and what you may or may not be looking at envisioning as a result of one of those safety initiatives.
Well, interesting enough, I just implemented a physical fitness program here in the city of Clinton for our firefighters. One of the things that we've worked very hard over the last several years is to reduce the number of line of duty deaths in the fire service. Annually, there's about 100 firefighters that die in the line of duty, and oftentimes those numbers are escalated through tragic events like just occurred in Arizona, where we lost 19. So that will add to our numbers this year and raise them very quickly. But studies have shown that of the 100 firefighters that die each year, 70 to 80% of them die due to heart attack. They don't always die in a burning building or fighting a wildland fire. Sometimes it's when they go home after an incident or on the way to the station to answer a call for service, and they die of a heart attack. That's a big, significant number. And we can impact that by improving our aerobic capacity in our firefighters and making them aware and try and promote healthier lifestyles through their physical conditioning and stuff. There's a small percentage of firefighters that do die in burning buildings, and some of them die because they've fallen through a floor or something has fallen on them and they don't have the upper body strength to pull themselves to safety. So again, that reflects back to physical conditioning. The particular life safety initiative that you referred to, I think addresses the fact of both career and volunteer organizations. And again, we go back to the volunteer side of it. If there, and I don't know the number off the top of my head, but if there's 20,000 fire departments, registered fire departments in the United States, probably only 2,000 of them are career. The rest are volunteer. So there's a significant number of volunteer departments throughout our nation. And to provide physicals and to check on their physical conditioning and provide programs, again, comes back to that budgetary money thing. And a lot of organizations just can't afford that. So they don't have programs implemented that would address the cardio capacity or the upper body strength or stuff like that in their organizations. So what that life safety initiative suggests is that we want to reduce the line of duty deaths annually in the fire service across the nation, and we want to implement programs that promote a healthy lifestyle and reduce the risk of heart attacks for our firefighters. So,
Chief, just kind of to couple that, and one of the parts of that statement, it says based on the duties they're expected to perform, and we just talked about how important it is to understand that volunteerism is going down. As firefighters that are in service now, that are out there working, become older, they become maybe not as agile as they once were. Is this going to weed some of those people, and they say, well, look, I'm just not able to do that anymore? Or do we still look at those as valuable assets and allow them to carry out functions they're able to carry out?
I think in a volunteer organization, there's a place for everyone, no matter what your age is. As far as operating on the fire ground, hopefully a good, solid physical fitness program will increase the number of years that they can continue to contribute in that capacity before, they take a more administrative role than what they would. So that would be our goal, is to allow our older contributors to actually go longer than what they normally would. So, because
the passion and dedication of some of those guys, you just can't. I mean, there's nothing that'll touch it. I mean, they've been there for years. They understand a lot about what's going on, and a lot of them, God bless them, I've seen them, they can fix things that a lot of the younger kids can't, and they can make things work, especially in a crisis situation.
That's right, and every community needs them. So.
Well, we're kind of coming down to our last couple of minutes. I want to give you time to just kind of anything you want to wrap up with, or anything we might have missed to the folks or the listening community as Fire Chief that you would like to say to them.
Well, I'd just like to say, since I've been here since September, everyone I've met and interacted with has been very warm and welcoming, and I really appreciate that. Clinton's a wonderful community, and I know I made the right choice to come here. I'm very excited the opportunity that was presented to me, and I look forward to contributing to make an already good fire department here in Clinton much better, and continue to ensure that the citizens of Clinton and Sampson County continue to get a high quality service. So
Chief, if somebody wants to make a recommendation or give you a call or ask you a question, how can they get up with you?
Well, you can call me right at the Wall Street station, 222 Wall Street in Clinton, North Carolina, and phone number is 910-299-4900.
4900. Just ask for the fire chief.
Just ask to be forwarded to the fire chief's office, and I welcome anyone call, any comments, positive or negative.
And you're still doing a lot of prevention stuff and working with schools and that kind of thing.
Yes, sir. In October's National Fire Prevention Month, and we try and get out to all our schools, and I'm hoping to increase some of the community involvement during Fire Prevention Month in October, and add a few more programs that aren't currently being offered. So, kind of looking forward to that opportunity. So,
a lot of eager young minds waiting for direction and to understand what's going on.
Well, hopefully inspire some eager young minds wanting to be firefighters when they get old enough.
Absolutely. Ring the bell.
Yes,
I want to thank you for being with us today. We've talked about a number of issues. Some of them I'd love to get into in more detail, but as you can see, time goes fast. We'll welcome you back anytime you have information you think is good for the public. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching and listening to We Should Know. We thank you. We look forward to seeing you next week on the radio.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question or comment regarding this or any episode, please send your email questions and or comments to jwsimmonsedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday afternoon beginning at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.